rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Guys, I want to remind you to support my sponsor, MyPillow, mypillow.com. You can use the promo code Carl. Help out Mike Lindell. He's providing American jobs, American manufacturing. There's a special going on with his Percale sheets right now. Queen set normally sells for $89.98. You can use my promo code and get the queen set for $39.98. But any color, any size that you want, all you have to do, use that promo code Carl, and you'll get the discounts that apply to whatever item that you're searching for. And that's whatever item is included on mypillow.com. So search mypillow.com for any item. Use the promo code Carl to get your discounts, or call 800-858-0263. Guys, I'm so excited about this interview. Honestly, it's been crazy getting this interview started. So I feel like this is something that probably really needs to be heard. Maybe the devil is messing around here. But I'm looking forward to speaking with former Congresswoman, former Tea Party star, former presidential candidate, and now the Dean of the Robertson School of Government at Regent University, Michele Bachman. Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast.
Carl Jackson, it is a thrill for me to be on with you today. Thank you. I'm so happy that it worked out. It's wonderful, Carl.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got to tell you, just right from the get-go, I was hoping you would be the first female president of the United States of America. I was like, she would be fantastic. The left hated you, so I loved you. I knew.
Well, had it occurred, the reason why I ran was because I wanted to repeal Obamacare, because there is no nation that has ever adopted socialized medicine where that nation was able to come back and thrive afterwards. And so I saw that once the United States government took over 1/6 of our economy, there would be no going back. And that's really what my purpose was in running. But I think the contribution I made to that race in 2012, ultimately Mitt Romney was our nominee. Look how that worked out for us back in 2012. I think the contribution I made was I was the first woman Republican to ever be in televised presidential debates. I was in 15 debates. And I think the contribution is that people were hearing in a systematic way what the problems were with Obamacare, what the problems with big government were. And so I think that was a contribution where people went from, I'm not sure about Obamacare, to, I don't want Obamacare. I don't want to have this because I think this is going to damage our healthcare system to give more control and more of my money to the government. I really want to make sure I have good healthcare. So that changed the platform for the Republican Party. We ended up winning 3 election cycles on that issue of repealing Obamacare. So I am grateful for that contribution. And now we see even more what the ravages of government taking over an industry does to the United States. Like, government took over the student loan industry. They own it now. Nobody else owns it. So that's really where we're at now, where government literally is in the position of dominating every aspect of our life, including telling us if we can leave our house or not, if we have to wear a mask or not, if we have to inject something into our body or not. No one could believe that we would ever get to this point in America.
I got to tell you, Congresswoman, I didn't expect that response. I love the response. I didn't expect it. So if you don't mind, I want to follow up with that, because I'm really frustrated at where the Republican Party seems to be right now as far as Obamacare. I don't even hear it being spoken of anymore. Getting rid of Obamacare is what I mean. I can tell you that I'm a small business owner. At the time, I can recall having a PPO where I was paying, I think, $180 per month with, excellent medical coverage. I wasn't making much money. I was just getting my service business started. And then Obamacare kicks in. And literally, I get a notice to discontinue my health care. I get another offer to pay $700 for myself alone. That didn't include my wife, my daughter. It was unbelievable. And today, I just feel like even Republicans, I don't hear enough of them talking about, and we'll get into the globalist threat, but even the threat of socialism right here in the United States of America, particularly as it pertains to Obamacare. Are you discouraged today, or are you Do you see anyone fighting for this?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought this up because, Carl, this is the number one thing on my mind for these elections this fall. It's almost common wisdom that everyone says that Democrats will lose the House of Representatives and very likely the Senate as well. But the question is, who will replace them? Will it be a fighting GOP that's as committed to a freedom agenda as the Democrats were committed to a socialistic government takeover agenda? The Democrats are completely committed. I mean, you never have to worry if they're going to charge ahead. They have file cabinets filled with all their plans. And so the second they get power, they not only take the power they have, they take power they don't have, and they act lawlessly. But the Republicans get power in their hands, and it's like they don't know what to do. The one thing that just absolutely has driven me insane is, I'm hearing from Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy saying, well, we're going to investigate. When we become the people who are in charge, we are going to investigate. Investigate morning to night. What is going to happen with that? What you need to do is ensure that the American people whose lives are miserable right now, you need to go in, you need to completely revamp the budget. You can't be spending money we don't have anymore. You need to change up what's happening. Repeal Obamacare. Get government out of the private sector. Get government out of healthcare. Get government out of the student loan industry. Get the government, the regulatory burden that's come before us. And now this climate change burden, which is actually a government effort to take over all of private business. That's all it is. There's nothing about climate change, because when I was in Congress, we would get a lot of briefings, and people need to know this. If the climate changers got absolutely everything they wanted and destroyed the American economy in the process, do you know that in 100 years, if we assume that all of their premises are right, that all of their data is right, in 100 years, the temperature wouldn't even drop more than a fraction of a degree. In other words, you couldn't even measure the difference. So there is no value in following their agenda. And of course, it's all a fraud. The climate change agenda isn't about clean water, clean air, which everyone is for. It's about massive shifting of private resources to the federal government. We've seen that under Joe Biden, and that's going to continue. It's really very simple. The question is, do you want to be the person who makes your own choices in your life and control the money that you earn? Or do you want to hand it over to the United States government, and then you jump as high as they tell you to jump, and you can't do anything unless they give you permission? Because we're moving into a scary time of a surveillance state. And so the future that the U.S. government wants to have for us resembles more of what communist China wants for their people than what the founders envisioned for us, which was true freedom where we get to make the choices about our lives.
You know, it's funny, Congresswoman, I interviewed and again, I'm speaking to former Congresswoman Michele Bachman, former Tea Party star, former presidential candidate, and now, again, she's the dean of the Robertson School of Government at Regent University. But I was just interviewed probably a couple of weeks or so ago, a gentleman by the name of Brian Gitt. And this was a guy that's, just a global warming activist, nature guy, would go climb mountains and do all of this hiking, and then got involved in technology and all this kind of stuff to try to make the world a better place. You know, he was concerned about global warming. He was one of the beneficiaries of the subsidies that the federal government gave out during the Obama administration. He has turned full circle because he said he started realizing he got $60 million from his business from the Obama administration. And then when everything became a failure, he was like, wait a minute, this stuff that I believe isn't working. And then he witnessed, I don't know if it was Obama himself or someone in his administration come out and tout the successes of all of this money that they were handing out. And it was a wake-up call for him. So now he started to do other research, totally went into clean energy, but using nuclear energy. And now he's giving solutions where he sounds like a straight up conservative on this issue. But it's absolutely amazing, and it's just accurate what you say. This is all about control from the federal government. We're not God. I'm sorry. I think we should. be wise stewards of God's land, if you will. But it's insane what the left is doing. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, it is
your time,
because
but
it's indoctrination. That's we live today in a veritable sea of lies. Day after day after day, what we're getting from the federal government are lies. Lies about climate, lies about the economy, lies about where inflation came from. This is no unknown story. It's easy to know where inflation came from. During COVID, when the American government destroyed middle class businesses, the government printed $5 trillion with nothing behind it, and they poured it out into the American economy, paid people to stay home and not work. They completely distorted the economy in the United States, and politicians did it around the world globally. We have never had this sort of a destabilizing effect that was created by either ignorant or intentionally planned politicians who want to destroy the economy and collapse it. It's one of the two. It's either people are intentionally doing this, or they're so rank and competent that they have got to go. I mean, if you look at Trudeau, if you look at Angela Merkel and Germany is absolutely in a sea of woe. If you look at the United Kingdom, they're looking at spending the average household £5,000, which is more than $5,000 per family, just on energy this year, just to keep warm this winter. That's how destructive the politicians and their decisions are, which is why, again, the Republican leadership has got to wake up and get a clue and give a plan to talk about how are we going to reopen American energy production. That's what Donald Trump did so brilliantly. The economy was boosted and soared like it had never soared before. People need to remember, we had it the best we'd ever had it as Americans under Donald Trump. And this isn't being a personality cult or anything. It's look at the metrics, look at the data. We never had it as good. If you're black, if you're Hispanic, if you're white, if you're a woman, you go across every metric there is. Every group did better under Trump. And it's because he was going for a freedom agenda, and he did it through legalizing American energy production. People need to know that in every country of the world, no country has more energy resources than the United States. We have more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than any other country. And Donald Trump said, great, let's use it. And so we had very high paying jobs, people making over 150,000 a year in the energy industry with a high school education. Wouldn't that be nice to go back to that time rather than going to the grocery store and you don't even feel like you can buy normal things? Yesterday, I went to Aldi's. I spent $3 on a dozen of eggs. That's our new norm under Democrat leadership. And this is not going to change until we kick the bums out. And so that's why November is everything this year. People have to vote. They have to vote smart. They have to realize we're going in the wrong direction. And it's the bums who are in power right now who have to go.
Yeah, that's a very, very well said. I would be remiss if I didn't get your opinion on Fauci resigning. I read, I think this was from Dr. Robert Malone, that one of the reasons, or during his resignation process or whatever, he could literally appoint someone to kind of do his dirty work. But anyway, I just want to get your take on Fauci resigning and the pandemic. I mean, I thought it was absolutely insane. I was tweeting at the time and talking about it on radio. Trump, please don't shut down the economy, because these radicals will totally do exactly what they did.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that Fauci resigned. He should have been fired. President Trump should have fired him while he was still president of the United States, because we knew by then that Fauci was either rank incompetent or that he was just plain wrong, because the evidence was clear. So it's good that he's gone. He should have been gone a long time ago. I mean, the guy was in his 80s. Why is this that our government is being run by 80-year-olds? I have great respect for people who are in their 80s, but they shouldn't be running the country at that age. You wouldn't find a Fortune 500 company hiring someone in their 80s to lead a company, and we shouldn't do that with our government either. So it's good that Fauci is gone. the pandemic, we know now from this point, it had nothing to do with COVID. It really had to do with another pretext for government to take over our lives and to change us away from a free market economy and turning us toward a command and control economy controlled by the United States government, and also to bring the United States down and reduce our sovereignty, the people's sovereignty, and instead boost up government. It was really, I would love to hear Donald Trump admit that it was a huge error to shut the country down for those 15 days that turned into, it still feels like we're shut down.
Sure. Right.
You know, things have opened up, but what's happened is that, and a lot of your viewers may not even know this, President Biden is operating under emergency powers now. The reason why he's able to take these lawless actions, that's what they are. It isn't because Congress passed laws. It's because he put executive orders into place that grants him never before seen levels of emergency powers. Now, we all know he's not using them. He's on a beach in Delaware somewhere. It's the people behind the scene. We don't know really who's running the government. It might be Susan Rice. It might be Ron Klain, chief of staff. We don't know. But whoever is running the government is having a field day being president of the United States, because they have a declared agenda to defeat the United States militarily. We had our worst military disaster ever in our history 1 year ago in Afghanistan. We went from being the global strong horse and the world's economic superpower to, I believe, we are no longer in that status. That's a profound thing that I'm saying.
Yes.
I used to sit on the Intelligence Committee. That's a profound thing. But I believe that whoever is running in the White House today also has the objective of taking the United States, which has been the leading economic superpower, to take us down so that we're no longer the economic superpower either. So imagine this. In our lifetime, we woke up every morning knowing that we are the leading economic and military superpower of the world. When you are, you have options. When you are no longer the military superpower of the world, when you are no longer the economic superpower of the world, you don't get to call the shots anymore. You don't have options. All of a sudden, your presence is greatly diminished and the lives of your people suffer because of it. That's where we're at right now. The American people know that something is wrong. And so there's no question the Democrats need to be booted out, but there's also no question the Republican Party better get its act together at the leadership level.
Right.
And they need to lay out an agenda so that we're going to dial this back to where Donald Trump had us. I mean, when he left office, gas was $1.89 a gallon. I remember that New Year's Eve sitting in a restaurant, looking out the window, and the price of gas was up on the sign. And knowing that Joe Biden was coming in, and I took a photo of gas of the price that night, just so I could remember what it was, because I knew it was going to change.
Right.
And boy, did it ever.
Oh my Lord, did it change? I mean, and obviously they have no intent on fixing it. I mean, draining our strategic petroleum reserve. It's unbelievable. Did you hear of, I mean, the left is, I mean, they've just been co-opted, right? The Democrat Party by the radical left, by communists, in my opinion. Did you see this
I don't
when you were in
disagree
Congress?
with that.
I mean, did you see it? Was it this bad?
I was in Congress when Obama was there. And at that point, it was even more shocking because we had never had that level of takeover when he was in. And so I brought it up then, and no one wanted to criticize Barack Obama because he was black. He was the first black president. So no one wanted to criticize him. And I turned around to my fellow Republicans and I said, this has nothing to do with skin color. This has everything to do with what we stand for and what agenda Barack Obama wants to bring forward. And it was a radical agenda. People should remember he had an automobile task force, and he set out pink slips to 3,500 car dealerships across the United States and told them they had 30 days to give up their lease. So like, let's say you were a Honda dealer, you were a Chevrolet dealer, you were a Jeep dealer. You had to give up your dealership. I mean, I looked around at my fellow Republicans and I said, do you realize what this is? This is gangster government. So Obama and his automobile task force decided which business was going to close and which was going to survive. And I was so offended by that. Wow. I went down to the House floor. I gave a speech that I called Gangster Government. There were like 4 million people that watched that thing. And they were so angry. And if you look around small, mid-sized towns across America today, you will still see empty car dealerships because the Obama administration closed them. That was radical. And it was just one taste of the many things that he did. That, again, the media doesn't tell normal people. People don't know what these guys are doing. Now with Joe Biden, it is so profound. This is just basically chapter 2 of the Obama administration. This is Obama's third term that we're living through. We can't blame him because it's now Joe Biden. But Joe Biden is not calling the shots. It's probably Team Obama. Who knows who it is? Who cares? All we know is that it's communist policies that are being put into place, and we're no different than any other nation that embraces communism. Communism doesn't work, and so we are not. What's unique is that America is experiencing the impact of communism. That's never happened before.
Man, I got to tell you, Congresswoman, I'm ready to say Trump Bachmann 2024. Good God, I would love to see you on the ticket, because I just don't feel like anyone is talking about this stuff, or not a lot. I mean, obviously there are some strong Republicans in the Senate, but it seems to be a handful. The same seems to be true for Congress, and I'm just thinking, where are you guys? It's like the only option that we have as conservatives is to find conservatives and put them into office. But it's like you said earlier, Democrats get into office. They've already got a game plan. They've got plans that they're pulling out of their desk. Republicans get in and like, we don't want to be mean. We want, and I'm like, what are you talking about? We're going to lose the country. You can kiss and make up later, but right now, let's get in the fight. Let's win. And then you can go and eat out with your Democrat friends and all this kind of nonsense.
Well, the house is burning down. That's what I would say. The house is burning down right now, and we're in it. And so there is no waiting around. There's no waiting for November. It's acting now. And that's what members of Congress need to do. That's what people who are vying to run for president need to do. They need to talk about what they're going to do to turn it around, because whoever gets in, we're in a far worse place than we were before. Once you spend $5 trillion plus, which has happened because of the COVID nonsense, you spend $5 trillion, you can't spend it twice. So that's already spent. So we've spent everything that there is in the future, $5 trillion. You know, the entire U.S. budget was about $2 trillion. And so in less than a year, they cranked up and spent $5 trillion beyond the $2 trillion that what they were spending. That's why all the prices have gone up on everything, because the feds flooded the money supply with money that had nothing behind it. So if you had $100 in the bank and the government put, let's say, $300 in the money supply, well, no wonder your money is worth less. So that's where we're at, and it's going to take sound economic principles put into place, Milton Friedman type principles that are based on free market economics. We can turn around an economy. Ronald Reagan showed that beautifully after the Carter years. It was amazing how fast the economy turned. Trump did the same thing. It was amazing how fast he turned the economy. This is going to be tougher to turn, but it can be turned. What is more difficult, almost impossible, is if you get foreign policy wrong, that can be wrong decades into the future. In fact, you might not be able to turn it around. The best example I can think of is that the Shah of Iran needed our help back during Jimmy Carter's era. Jimmy Carter sat on his hands. He allowed the Shah to fall. Ayatollah Khomeini left Paris and went to Tehran. That was the rise of modern Islamic terrorism. We have never been the same as a world because of the rise of global Islamic terrorism. We're still dealing with it today. And that's something you can't take back, you know, unless the Ayatollahs are out. But I mean, it's such a huge thing. And that's why what happened last year in Afghanistan, the media didn't even cover it this year. They basically ignored the worst military disaster ever in our history, and we just observed the 1-year anniversary. That is something that will be very difficult for us to overcome. Why? We spent over $1 trillion in Afghanistan with nothing to show for it, and we gave the Bagram Air Force Base to the Chinese. So the Chinese communists now have a forward base going west. And so that's theirs now. The rare earth minerals, which were in Afghanistan, that's theirs now. So we came out with a big bill to pay and nothing to show for it. It is literally the worst disaster in American military history.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. This is enough to make you want to go out and vote and just pray to God that Republicans do something. You know,
Republicans with a brain. Get some Republicans with a brain and
a
guts,
spine.
And a spine.
Oh my God. All right. So all right, this is crazy. So the reason I brought you on is because I really wanted to talk about the globalist threat, but I love hearing what you have to say about these issues. So there was a column that popped up on Just the News. This was a couple of months ago or so. It says Michele Bachman warns Biden maneuvering to cede U.S. health prerogatives to the World Health Organization. And it was big news at the time. I know you were on Just the News, Not Noise. I heard you on Sebastian Gorka's program. What can you tell us about that now? What's transpired since then? Because we are trying to give up our health sovereignty, as I understand it.
Yeah, the threat remains, I'm sorry to say. And for people who don't have the background, the World Health Organization is the healthcare arm of the United Nations. And so the Biden administration in January came up with amendments to the governing charter of the World Health Organization. Essentially what they wanted to do, I mean, this is unbelievable. People should hear what I'm saying right now. The Biden administration wanted to give the UN sovereignty over U.S. healthcare decisions. This is after COVID. And so what served Biden so well is the emergency powers that he gave to himself. And that's why you could shut down businesses, tell us we have to stay home, force us to put injections in our body and wear masks, all the rest. That's because of emergency powers. So Biden wanted to empower the UN, a global body, with the same kind of emergency power. So one person, one corrupt, controversial person named Tedros from Ethiopia, right, who is the Director General of the World Health Organization, he would have the sole authority, not Congress, not your Senate, not your House member, not the president. Tedros now would have the ability to declare a public health emergency. Where have we heard that before? He could declare a public health emergency in America, and then presumably we would have to lock down, we would have to do all these various things because of the World Health Organization. So there is they were meeting in Geneva, Switzerland. They didn't get their way because people found out about this, and uproar ensued, and so it didn't pass. But as we're talking, there are meetings going on with the UN where the Biden administration, they haven't changed their mind. They still want to give up UN sovereignty because they have a globalist agenda. That's why they're trying to collapse the United States because I know this used to be considered conspiracy stuff. Right. Now this is out in the open. They want a one world government. I mean, that is their goal. And so that's why this collapsing is going on. So they're meeting now, and they're intending to have a vote, I think, later in August on a global pandemic treaty. And that would do the same thing. It would empower the World Health Organization, and it would take away power from us so that wherever in the world the Tedros or the World Health Organization wanted to declare an emergency, they would have the powers of surveillance in that nation, the power to come in and invade that nation. I mean, it's so over the top, you can't even believe it. And why any American president would want to give up our rights, because what he's trying to do is he's trying to turn Congress into a dinosaur. They already kind of are a dinosaur, but he's trying to completely neuter the powers of the Senate and the House. And why is that important? Because it takes away the essence of who we are in America. We're a republic. where the people who have the most power under our system of government are the people. Because the people can throw out the people in office and get new people, and we can change the direction we're going. Not if you give our power to the UN, not if you give our power to the World Health Organization. And that's what Biden is trying to do. I wish people understood how truly devious these actions are and satanic. In my estimation, these are satanic actions, because this isn't about a love for people. Right. This is about a hatred for people. It's amazing. And I've never seen anything like it. And that's why we're living in the misery that we have now in the United States.
Man, there are a couple of things that you said that sparked something in me. You talked about Congress being a dinosaur. I forget the other thing already, but elaborate on that, because it does seem like Congress has ceded all of this power, I guess, to the executive branch. I don't understand exactly what's going on here, but it's amazing to me how with these emergency, with this emergency authority that Biden has, does Congress doesn't have the ability to roll any of this stuff back? I don't understand.
Well, they should. I mean, that's what they should do. But as your listeners know, the government is completely in the hands of Democrats right now. So the House is run by Democrats, the Senate is run by Democrats, the White House is run by Democrats, and the whole bureaucracy in DC is run by Democrats, all of the agencies. So their goal has been to go down this line of taking away authority from the people by having the House and the Senate continually, in bill after bill, year after year, give up more power to one man, which is the White House. And that's why the left has to capture the White House. They have to own it, because if they own the White House, they don't need Congress. I mean, take a look at what's happening. They don't need Congress. Right. They've got the White House. So just by and they're doing one lawless action after another. But with this last climate bill, health bill that was passed, again, this is another almost $1 trillion that they gave to Joe Biden. And what's it going to be used for? It's a pass-through entity, so that all of the big donors, Biden's big donors, they're all making, these are billionaires. So we have just financed billionaires with over $700 billion of our money. And so these big donors then, they're doing the bidding, the kickbacks, they're financing all the Democrats because they just got paid off. That's how this works. The U.S. Treasury is the world's biggest ATM machine. And so Joe Biden just put the card in. He pulled out $700 billion. He he's giving the money to the globalist Democrats, big donors. And so now they're spending that money. The Planned Parenthoods, all these outfits are spending the money to reelect these same incompetent fiend failures who are implementing these communist policies. So it's very, very difficult to kick out the current party that's in power, but people are fed up. If they ever needed a reason, they need to realize this is probably the last exit ramp for the United States. If we want to pull this thing back, we have got to get these bums out this fall, and then, of course, in 2024.
You know, the second thing came to mind. I used to be one of these Republicans when people would talk about globalism. I'm like, hey, guys, let's not go to conspiracy theory. But they are just out in the open.
Oh, yeah.
They're not hiding anything
Nobody's
anymore.
blushing anymore. No.
I'm like, they're just wide open. So I think about.
They love it because they are the 1%. That's what the deal is. They are. So the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezos, the Bill Gates, they see it. They're running naked to the finish line because they're very arrogant and cocky now because they know that they control every lever of power. And so they're not worried. I don't even think they're worried about losing elections this fall. I really don't think they are because they see that they control every lever of power.
Wow. That is pretty scary when you stop and think about it. Another concern that I have is within the Republican Party. I mean, I remember people used to say, "Hey, the Bushes are globalists" and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, "Guys, you're nuts. But there does seem to be an issue within the Republican Party where I'm like, guys, what's wrong with nationalism? What's wrong with talking about our nation's sovereignty? When has that become such a dirty word within the Republican arena, or words within the Republican arena? Did you experience this while you were in Congress, where you were just like, guys, this is just straight up globalism. This is insane. We're ceding our national sovereignty to different countries or what have you.
Well, the Republican Party is filled with globalists too, and that's really the dividing line now. Is are you a globalist? In other words, you don't understand the importance of America's sovereignty. That was Donald Trump's big sin, is the fact that he loved America. He wanted to make America great again. And he wanted to ensure American sovereignty. That's why he took us out of the Paris Climate Change Treaty and took us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Treaty. He took us out of these globalist organizations, and that's what fried his opponents more than anything. That's why he is so hated, because these geniuses thought, hey, we've got everything sewn up. We've got Justin Trudeau in Canada. We've got Macron in France. We got Merkel in Germany. We're all going to hold hands and sing a tune walking down the garden path to get us to one world government. They actually believe this is a good idea because they see that they're the ones that are going to make the decisions. They're the 1%. So there'll be this big elite and then everyone else. And everyone else will be the peons that do the work that the elite want us to do. There's no more freedom under that scenario. Donald Trump upended that. So yes, there are a lot of Republicans today who are globalists, who should not be returned to power. They should have to leave because, again, people don't realize how far down the road we are. We're really far down the road at this point to pulling back our nation into freedom. And that's why I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian. I believe in the power of prayer. And at Regent University, for the second year in a row, we are sponsoring 40 days of prayer and fasting. People can join us. They can go to Regent.edu to get more information, but it's 40 days of prayer and fasting that Robertson School of Government is hosting. We're going to meet by phone and video every day for a half hour. And our purpose is just to seek God, confess our sins, cry out to him, and ask him for this country. He's more powerful than any evil, wicked plans. And so that's what we're doing, is just like our founders trusted in God for the start of this country, we're trusting in God to save and preserve and protect our country. That's something positive we can do. Rather than taking our shoe off and throwing it at the TV, we're going to seek God on behalf of our nation.
Yeah, that's a good idea because I almost did the latter part there. When does the 40 days of fasting and prayer begin?
It's going to start this coming Friday. That'll be our first day. And so that's our introductory day. And then the first day is Saturday. And fasting means going without food or something. And it doesn't mean you go for 40 days, you eat no food. It's between you and the Lord. If you want to, whatever it is that you want to give up, there's a benefit in us just giving something up and focusing on God and then praying together in unity, because the Bible says where two or more are gathered, he is there in our midst and he hears our prayers. So this will be my 5th year to do it, the 2nd year with Regent. And I believe that a powerful God can do powerful things for our country if we humble ourselves before him and ask for his will and intervening hand. He's bigger than George Soros. He's bigger than Bill Gates. And I'd rather put my trust in a holy God than Bill Gates.
Man, praise God. And this is such a spiritual battle. I'm going to participate in that in my own way. You're absolutely right, especially leading up to these elections. It's so important that we seek the face of God. So, I mean, it's just cool to hear this, because I think more people are waking up to the fact that, man, this is just evil. A lot of the agenda from the Biden administration and what we're seeing from the left, dividing our kids, over sexualizing our kids, all of these agendas that's just meant to cause chaos so that they could eventually just brainwash everyone, keep everyone mad and disgusted. And then the left could say, hey, I'm your champion. And while they walk us right into communism, that's ultimately the goal. Going back to this issue of globalism, there was a period of time where I felt like, okay, you always hear, well, this is the way the world is going. It's a globalist economy, so on, etc. But once Trump came in, and the more I think about this stuff, I'm like, no, that's not true. We can sustain our own national sovereignty, and we can be successful as the United States of America like we've always been. So I guess it's just us wanting, or leftists or globalists wanting, to redistribute wealth around the world, because we don't need necessarily this globalist economy, do we?
Well, we've from the beginning of man, we've always been a global economy. We don't just trade within our villages. We trade all around the world. There's nothing
Fair
wrong
enough.
with that. When we say the word globalist, I'm not meaning that an airline like Delta Airlines, which is a global airline, goes all over the world. There's nothing wrong with that. Or a
Sure.
company like 3M has products that go all over the world. There's nothing wrong with that. What globalist is doing away with national American sovereignty or French sovereignty or Canadian sovereignty. And instead, now your source of authority is a one unified global authority. Well, everything that we've seen from this global authority, really personified by the World Economic Forum more than anything else, their plans for us aren't very good. Because what they're saying is that in the near future, not distant future, in the near future, no one will own anything. Well, wait a minute. I own my house. I own a car. I own my furniture. What do you mean I have a bank account? I'm not going to own it? In their scenario, we will own nothing, because this unified global government will own everything. And so we'll get what global government says we can get. This sounds so far out that this could not possibly happen in our lifetime. But these people are telling us we're not going to eat meat anymore. So we better get used to it. And I'll tell you, I mean, I fly a lot, and on the airlines, they're rarely serving meat anymore. They're even changing the menus. So are we going down a globalist path? We are absolutely going at a bullet speed toward globalism. And so that's what we need to decide. Are we for one world government, or would we prefer the government that we started out with, that has had the greatest, highest standard of living of any nation ever in 5,000 years of recorded human history? So we know what societies have existed for the last 5,000 years. None have ever exceeded the United States of America. And so why do you think the borders are open, where 5 million impoverished people, most of whom are uneducated, unskilled, are being dumped into the United States? It's because that is destroying and bringing down America's great cities, because that's mostly where these people are going, and it is impoverishing the cities. What do you think you're going to get if you bring in impoverished people? 5 million. That's 5 million more beds that are needed that they can't afford. 5 million more meals 3 times a day that they can't afford. So who's paying for it? The people who are here are paying for it. Back probably, I'd say 8 years ago, illegal immigration cost us $136 billion a year. Now it's doubled, tripled what the cost is. So that doesn't include the cost of crime and all the rest.
Right.
So the question is, do we have sovereignty? No, we don't. Because Joe Biden doesn't believe that America should have borders. We don't have American sovereignty today. Let me say it again. There is no American sovereignty today, because the Biden regime and the Pelosi regime and Chuck Schumer in the Senate have decided they don't like America anymore. They don't like you. They hate you. They hate the American people. They want us collapsed, because they want us in a one world government where they get all the favors and their kids get all the favors, like Paul Pelosi Jr., Hunter
Right.
Biden, they and their family are doing just fine, thank you very much, because it's like a big Al Capone mafia network. That's what our government is today. It's a big Al Capone mafia network where the family members do just fine. But the rest of us are being taxed out of our homes, taxed out of our businesses, regulated out of it, to the point where it's really tough to even go to the grocery store and fill up our gas tanks. You can't believe that in 18, 20 months that America go from $1.89 a gallon gas under Donald Trump to what we have today. From eggs that were 45 cents a dozen, now they're $3. I mean, and baby formula, you can't find baby formula. I mean, in what universe are these good moves? So that's where we got to wake up and recognize something not is going to happen. It is happening, and it has happened.
Man, this is unbelievable. Such a great interview, guys. I love speaking with. This is my first time interviewing former Congresswoman Michele Bachman, and honestly, this has just been a fascinating interview. Just a couple more questions I have for you, Congresswoman. Ironically, you answered one, and that was about the open borders. I was thinking about diluting how it's kind of diluting the American identity, and with
the
all
purpose.
Of these people.
That's the purpose. That's the plan.
But I love your argument too, as far as bankrupting our cities. Just literally bankrupting our big cities. I mean, it's such a great point. Another thing I want to ask you: the collapse of the Tea Party. What did Republicans or conservatives do wrong then? What do they need to do differently now to stop this globalist threat, this march into communism right here in the United States of America?
Well, I think with the Tea Party, they really weren't partisan. They were trying to find somebody who wanted to be a constitutionalist, who wanted to uphold traditional American values. And they were just devastated by what the Obama administration had done to this country by taking over businesses. So the Tea Party was willing to support Democrat, Republican, anybody who would stand up for free enterprise and our economy. And so because of the choices that were offered and the Democrat platform versus the Republican platform, the Tea Party tended to vote for Republicans because their platform looked better. The problem is the leadership of the Republican Party tended to be more establishment and more globalist. That hurt confidence of the Tea Party people. The Tea Party didn't go away. All that happened is that Donald Trump gave a voice to people who were in the Tea Party. And so people rejected, remember, it was 17 Republicans who ran for president in 2016. And a lot of them had been running for a long time. And a lot of really good people, they're friends of mine. Right. But Donald Trump gave a very unique voice. It wasn't going to be business as usual with him. So the base, the Tea Party base, became the Make America Great Again base. That's where the Tea Party went. It went to the Make America Great Again agenda. So the people have always been there, because one thing I've always said is that the American people love America. They love America. A lot of immigrants who come into the United States, they love America because of what we stand for and what we are. But this communism is not America. So what people want is what helped us to become a great nation. And it isn't just a super welfare state support system. It's where we lose our choices. It's the opportunity to do better, not the entitlement. So there's a big difference between opportunity and entitlement. And the worst thing that we do to destroy our country is to go down the road of entitlement and not go down the road of opportunity. We don't help anyone, especially not young people, if we don't expect that young people are going to have to work and go along with opportunity rather than entitlement.
Man, that's good stuff. Good stuff. I think I'm going to bring it to a close, Congresswoman, but I'm going to have you back. This was, and I'm gonna create a banner, Trump Bachman 2024.
Oh. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
actually, being dean at Regent University is pretty great. And I just wanted to give a little commercial.
Absolutely.
We are a solid, committed university. We believe in high academics, but we're also unashamedly coming from a biblical worldview perspective. We have undergraduate programs, but we also have graduate school. We really started out as a graduate school. We've got masters for business. We've got law school. We've got the graduate programs in government. So if you're interested in being like a city manager or working in nonprofits, or if you're interested in knowing more about government, come and you can go online. We're very affordable. And we also are a very high minority-based university too. So I want to encourage everyone to check out Regent.edu. We've got unbelievable programs, and I think you'll love it. I love being dean there. It's a fabulous school. So I invite everybody to check us out at Regent.edu.
Oh, that's so cool. And we'll make sure that we put that in the description of the podcast as well. So, guys, listen, I hope that you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have. Again, we were speaking to former Congresswoman Michele Bachman, now the Dean of the Robertson School of Government at Regent University. Again, Regent.edu, like she just said. Please be sure to support Mike Lindell at MyPillow, mypillow.com. Use that promo code Carl. And you can get all the latest and greatest deals, and you can help out American jobs and American manufacturing, even in the midst of the Biden administration trying to destroy American jobs and American manufacturing. And also, please subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are found. SalemPodcastNetwork.com, thecarljacksonshow.com, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, you name it. Also follow me on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. That's The Carl Jackson Show, wherever I am on social media. And again, former Congresswoman Bachman, it was a pleasure to speak to you. I've been looking forward to this interview. And you definitely, even though I knew it would be great, you even surpassed my expectations. So I hope that you'll come back. I look forward to having you back, if you will. All right.
God bless you and your great audience. And you can check us out at Regent.edu. If people are interested in the 40 days of prayer and fasting, they can find it at Regent.edu.
Thank you. God bless you. I really appreciate you. Really do.
Bye-bye.
All right.